Okay, and welcome to another Blitz session. This one is called Digital Footprints You Can't Hit Unsend. My name is Jason Siko. I'm an instructional technology consultant here at Wayne Risa, and you can see my contact information on the page there. Just some housekeeping issues. If you want to sign in, if you want Sketch credit for this, I put a link in the chat to do that. And if you need your pick, there's a link there as well to find out what your pick is if you don't remember or have forgotten. And just some video conference norms. Please remember to mute your microphone if you're not speaking. It's a small group today, so if you have a question, feel free to come off mute and ask it, or just type it in the chat if you see fit. I am monitoring that. Turn off your webcam if you're experiencing any delays. That's usually a big cause of bandwidth issues, is having your camera on when you don't need it. Like I said, please use the chat bar for questions. And if you're having any technical difficulties, please just step out and rejoin the session. I will let you back in. I am not muting, or I'm not locking the session. And as been a reminder all month, the summer forward Blitz thinking is about the whole child, which brings in a whole host of things other than just academic performance. You can see on the screen there, health, education, social emotional climate, community. And really today, this one is really going to focus on wellness and social and emotional climate. As you can see there on the quote, the promotion of social, emotional, and academic learning is not a shifting educational fad. It is the substance of education itself. And I think we have to understand that as teachers, particularly veteran teachers, we do see a lot of fads. This is one where we're really kind of diving in and making sure that we are addressing all the needs of our children, because if some of those basic needs aren't met, the learning cannot occur. And so as we begin today, let's play a little game of Never Have I Ever. And for those of you watching the recording, go ahead and hit pause or discuss in your groups about things that you have never done. So thumbs up if never have I ever. Never have I ever posted something online that I later regretted. I'll take a couple seconds. Okay, never have I ever used a really simple password like password or 12345 or your account name. So if you are Smith, if your name is John Smith and your email address is Smith J and your password is Smith J, that would be an example of a really simple password. Never have I ever used the same password for multiple accounts. So I have this one password. It may even be really complex, but I use it for my Facebook, my email, my work email, my credit card, and my bank. Never have I ever responded to a Facebook poll. So if you've been on social media, it's like, hey, fill out this poll. It's fun. And it says, name my firstborn, my favorite restaurant, my sign, my zodiac sign, where I met my spouse, and all these things. And then last but not least, never have I ever had my identity or credit card stolen or my whatever account hacked by someone else. And, personally, I'll be completely out front. I've probably posted something online that I later regretted. I've probably used some real simple passwords. I've definitely used multiple passwords for the same accounts. I once was using my the same exact password for all my bank accounts and my credit card, the same exact password. Responded to a Facebook poll. I don't think I've done that. I may have done one a long, long time ago, but that's one I kind of know not to do, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And I have had a credit card stolen on multiple times, not physical. Once I left my wallet somewhere, but then another time I had my credit card account number used, and even some weird things where I got calls from the bank saying, yeah, they actually used a physical card, and it was somewhere in Africa, someplace I've never been. And they said, yeah, they actually used a physical card. So somebody actually printed a card with my account number that they just picked at random. So I've had that done. And I've had my Twitter hacked and my Gmail hacked. And in both those instances, I really had good passwords for. And so what I want to do is talk about some of these things and, why we need to do some of the things that our IT department asks us to do, as well as why or some tips on how to improve your security. And I start by this inward looking, even though this session is about our students. It's because we really need to model good digital behavior. And it starts with us, and it starts with some of these very basic things. So Passwords. I personally, and this is not a written rule here, but I personally try to kind of look at our passwords and accounts under four different realms. One is work. One is our financials, our bank accounts or credit cards. One is our commerce, and that means the stuff where we buy stuff from, like Amazon, eBay, Walmart.com, any of those types of things. Fourth is our social media, and fifth is other. And I would rank these in terms of like those first three. Definitely you want to really think about what you put down for a password and not use a simple password. Your social media, kind of the same thing, but not as much. And then other, and quite honestly, I have some weak passwords. Like I could really care less if somebody hacked my Padlet account, or some, my Bitmoji account. It wouldn't matter to me. What are they going to do with that? So those are types of things that you might want to consider, maybe having a basic password or not stressing too much if it's too simple. But I really want to point out on this page here, that link there that's listed, the K6.org, K126.org. This is a list of K-12 cyber incident maps. And this is why it's really important to really have even a strong password for your work account. You might think, well, why would anybody want that? I think we remember Ferris Bueller's Day Off, or where he changed the number of absences because he saw the password for the attendance program, even back in the early 80s. But these are becoming more and more frequent. And you can see here, this is a list of incidences that have occurred where school districts or schools have been had had a cyber attack. And that could mean stolen passwords. It could mean stolen private information. It could be ransomware, which is when they get access to high levels of data and they encrypt it, meaning that they create a password or encrypt the data to where it's locked completely until you have a certain password. And then they'll hold it ransom. They say, we're either going to release this, sell it, or you need to pay us a ransom. And school districts tend to be easy targets because there are so many moving parts between students and teachers and other educational staff that there's bound to be a way in one way or the other. And there's some value in stealing or doing bad things with that data. But even just zooming in on the state of Michigan, you can see here just the number of instances in the state. When you click on these, it'll show you what happened and why. Somebody released, and this might be just human error, not necessarily a hack, but a contract released via FOIA revealed the social security numbers of 40 school employees, or an unknown person made an inappropriate gesture to servers were attacked by a ransomware virus. It affected critical operating systems in the district, and they had to close school for a couple days because things like the heating and cooling were affected. So some of these are minor, some of these are really problematic, and some of them are continually ongoing, even to this day. So please be aware that your work email, even though you think about, well, so what if they get access to my grades? It's more than that, depending on how much access that you're given as an educational professional, and what can people access with your account. So work is really important. Financials is obvious for obvious reasons. You don't want to give away your credit card number to anybody, nor would you want to give passwords to your bank accounts. Commerce, the same thing, because credit cards are stored on there. You could, if I hacked your Amazon account, I would be able to purchase things and change the shipping address. Now that gives a trail to where to find me, but there's still ways around that. Social media is less important, but you wouldn't want maybe a student stealing your social media credentials and posting something where that's offensive and may get you in trouble or even fired or dismissed because of that. So a couple ways to protect that or manage this is, first and foremost, get a password manager. There are tools out there that are either free or for a small fee that allow you to keep track of your passwords, organize your passwords, and create and generate strong passwords that have many characters that you don't even need to remember, but you can access them readily with the password manager with one basic password. I will say something like Chrome, where you have Chrome autofill, that can be a double-edged sword. Yes, you can create strong passwords, but if your computer gets stolen and they're able to get access to your computer, all your passwords are already there, and they can just go and the computer will magically autofill them. And they get access. So that's one thing to consider. Another one is, where applicable, enable multi-factor authentication. That usually involves a password and a physical device. So not only do you have to enter in your password, but then it buzzes your phone to say, hey, is this you? And then you have your phone with you. Now, is that extra effort? Yes. What if you don't have your phone around you? But if your identity is stolen, hopefully your phone isn't stolen with it, and they can't get into the accounts if they need to. change or update frequently. And this is where a password manager comes in handy because it's very problematic to constantly remember passwords. But it's with a password manager, it makes it helpful, and it just keeps things fresh. So you're not relying on old passwords that could be if one account is hacked and you happen to use the same password for multiple accounts, I can easily get access to those as well. And then again, there's varying rules, but try to not make it simple. Try to vary the length. Try to use multiple special characters, uppercase, lowercase, numbers, special characters, or even type in passphrases that you would only know, like maybe a cute saying that you have with your kid. Oversharing. I'm not going to play this video. I would definitely consider looking at it. It's from a TV show called Adam Ruins Everything, and he talks about the problems with Facebook and Google and the amount of data they can harvest and sell and transmit. And the overarching theme here is that if the product is free, then you are the product. And this goes back to, how does Google make money? How does Facebook make money? How do social media sites make money? And they make money a lot of times through ads, but also by taking your data and selling it to companies so they can create targeted ads for you. And this gets to that idea of, you ever search for something on the internet, and then when you hop over on Facebook, you see ads for that exact product that you're looking for. That is a little creepy. And how do they do that? Well, it's because these companies are taking that search data and the things you post on social media and selling it to advertisers and companies to help target and promote ads to you. The same thing with answering polls. A lot of times it's it sounds cute, it sounds fun. It's like, hey everybody, let's answer this poll, and it asks you some very personal questions like, where did you first meet your spouse? What did you do on your first date? What's your zodiac sign? And those are often, if not part of people's passwords, it's part of people's security questions. So when you log into accounts, sometimes it asks you that same security question, like, where did you meet your spouse? Well, now you've just given it away, and you might think, well, who's going to steal that? Well, maybe not everybody, but some people have their Facebook accounts very, what I'll say is locked down, meaning that they only let friends see their information and no one else. But that doesn't apply to everybody. And also, if you respond to a poll that's been shared, you're now on that person's Facebook feed from which other people see your name and your responses. So you have to be very careful when answering those polls and those cute little things that you do on social media. Again, the chances of it happening are rare, but they are increasing. Nope. I'll skip that. Oversharing is, and this is kind of a generic thing. Oversharing is educators. I could start off as a disclaimer, I am not a lawyer and I'm not your union representative if you have one. But one of the problems we have is, as educators, we are somewhat mini celebrities. And there is this, particularly with social media, there's a blurred line between what our professional and personal accounts say and do. I may have one Twitter account and I type things in related to work, but I also maybe interact with friends and colleagues from other places on social media, let's say Twitter. So I have to be very careful about what I say, because if I see a group of educators who are following me for educational purposes and I post something a little too spicy, that may come back to haunt me. And same thing on Facebook accounts. You may live in the district in which you teach. You may post things from the weekend block party where things got a little crazy. Well, there may be parents on that Facebook group, or parents that you're friends with. Their kids see it, they share it, and that's when problems occur. And there have been incidences in the area, particularly even in Wayne County. There was one a few years ago where some teachers posted pics from some sort of post-school outing, I think a golf outing. I know the district is going to remain unnamed, but people saw those and publicly shared them, because once you release it out into the public and you post it, somebody can very easily just copy that image, and all your faces are in there. They may not be the names, but they may have the drinks in your hand, and that can get out. And depending on the community, that can become a problem. And again, I'm not a lawyer or a union rep, but there is this clause in the Michigan, Code of Ethics for educators about, quote unquote, conduct unbecoming a teacher as a reason for dismissal. So again, we as teachers need to be careful about these things as well. But let's talk about students for a second. And you have to think about, which of the following is a problem in your school? Is cyberbullying a problem in your school? Is sexting a problem in your school? Is catfishing a problem in your school? And if you don't know what these are, maybe we can talk about them in the next slide. But if you're listening to a recording, you can just sit and talk either amongst yourselves or think personally, like, are these things a problem in my district? And the other thing I would do is say, how do I know that it isn't a problem in your district? Because you may just be unaware of what's going on at the administrative level. So take a moment, think about these terms, and think about how, and you can respond in the chat to see if anything is going on with these problems, or I'm sorry, are any of these a specific problem in your district currently? And like I said, I'll go to a couple in a second if you are unsure of what they are. All right, well, let's talk about a couple of these. So cyberbullying is bullying. So you have, somebody in a position of a student, let's say, or this can happen with adults too. Somebody in a position of power, whether it be demographics, group dynamics, cliques in the school, but even this can happen between teachers or between administrators and teachers. There have been incidences of this where cyberbullying occurs. What makes cyberbullying so much more difficult than, let's say, traditional bullying is the fact that it can happen and it's hard to monitor because of the fact that it can happen anywhere. So physical bullying generally means the victim and the bully need to be in close proximity. Whereas cyberbullying, they don't have to be. They don't even have to be in the same school. They don't even have to be in the same district. The second piece there is policing. What happens if this occurs outside of school hours? What can the school district do? Now, there are evolving case law about this, but if there's cyberbullying occurring at 10 o'clock at night, is it the school's business? Does that spill over? Now, you might make an argument it is disruptive to the educational process, and therefore it does, but that is still not a super clear standard to meet. Second thing is, are they using school equipment or not? Again, if it occurs on school equipment, yeah, it's an issue. And that includes a school issued Chromebook or iPad. But if it happens at home, after hours, on their own personal devices, what control do we have over that, or what types of things can we do to manage or mitigate that? It becomes very difficult. The other thing is that sometimes messages can be encrypted and deleted. So if students receive some messages that are, that can be deemed, bullying. Sometimes you can't share them, or they're quickly deleted. For example, some messaging apps have time lapses in terms of when those how long those will remain in the history. So if they were actually looking back to see what occurred, maybe those messages no longer exist. Sexting is obviously the sending of lewd images back and forth between people. And this is a problem as well. You have a message history issue. In some instances, it can qualify as child pornography. And that's a problem not only for the person whose phone it's on, it's the one who's sending it. It's also for, people who are, prosecuting these need to be very careful, because they have those images stored on their computer, and they need to be very aware of the fact that could be child pornography on their computer. So there's another layer of caution that people need to take when dealing with these cases. And the other thing that can happen, and this is common with anything on the internet, once you click send, you don't know where it's going to end up. So you may have somebody being asked to send somebody else a pic, and they may be, harassed or pestered into sending a pic, and then that pic gets sent under the guise of, oh, he or she wants to see that. And what they really want to do is take that image and spread it around, send it to all their friends, and get it on the internet. And now they have this lewd image of the person spreading all over the place. And then that kid has to go to school the next day. So that is a huge problem in schools. The last one is catfishing. It's kind of a form of cyberbullying, but it basically involves creating a fake identity to lure somebody into a relationship or a situation where harm can be done. And it's generally done as a prank, but it can have serious consequences with respect to trauma or harm if it proceeds to a point where somebody is actually going to visit someone else. Um, there's been some highly publicized cases in this, even with adults, but it generally involves creating a fake persona and then trying to, you know, get the attention of the victim under the guise of their interest in them, either as a platonic friendship or a serious relationship or things of that nature. And they quote unquote take the bait and are thinking that they are making a friend or starting a romantic relationship with somebody who doesn't exist. And when that is revealed, obviously, that's a very embarrassing situation for the victim. So catfishing is kind of a form of what we call phishing, which is more of a cybersecurity term when people are, responding to fake accounts. If you've ever gotten a spam email, it says, "Hey, your Microsoft account's been hacked. Click here," and it's not from your work. It's not from Microsoft. It's to a site where they get you to enter in your personal information, and they have it. That's called phishing. Catfishing is a term that's related to that, but it's in essence the same thing, only you're not getting account information. You're just trying to get their emotional attachment to the fake account. But the other thing here is, and this is the things that we want to warn kids about when they are sharing things on the internet. This is from a podcast called Hidden Brain. It was just recently on Hidden Brain. So if you're familiar with that podcast, you can go listen to the whole thing. But it's more of a cautionary tale, but it was the kind of the impetus for me creating this or wanting to do this session for the Summer Blitz. It covered the story of William. I think that was his real name, although I think they might have hinted that it was a pseudonym, although it was a little more public than that. He was a senior in high school. He had been accepted to Harvard, and he had come from let's just say a not rich family. So he was really kind of using this as a gateway to kind of move up in the social strata. He wanted to fit in. So he caught wind of a Facebook group that was for incoming freshmen. And people were meeting each other and saying, "Hi, hey, I got accepted, da 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 da." They're building friendships even before they arrived on campus. And what started to happen though is that some people started sharing memes or pictures that were highly offensive, containing vulgar, derogatory, or racist images or statements. And again, I'm not going to share any of those. If you want to listen to that, you can listen to the podcast because they are, I'm not kidding, they are some of the more awful things I've ever heard. And so he started to do this. He started to participate because he wanted to quote unquote fit in. So he was, and you could tell that he was not a quote unquote bad kid or actually harbored some of these feelings. He was just trying to do more than to kind of create friendships. Well, and again, not as a justification for his actions, but when you listen to the podcast, you would hear his rationale for doing these things. Harvard found out about this Facebook group. They gained access to the group, and basically anybody who was documented as having shared anything that was considered offensive, they rescinded his acceptance. And this sent this kid into a turmoil because everyone knew he got accepted into Harvard, and then all of a sudden everyone knew he had his acceptance rescinded. The following year, he applied to a bunch of other Ivy League schools, got rejected from them all. Because again, his name was out there as somebody who had done this. Again, he eventually got into a school, became a physics major. I probably just graduating, depending on when this was published and how long it took him to do it. But this is a really scary thing. And again, you think about kids do dumb things. Well, this had consequences, and it gets to that point of the title. You can't hit unsend. You can't take those things back. And we need to pass that knowledge or that warning on to students. So how do we address this with students? Well, there's a couple answers here, and some of them are a bit, I guess, pie in the sky or dream worthy. It is really about relationships. And again, not to get into something like a cell phone policy debate, but we need to kind of work with students, not to just eliminate it or say don't do it. We really need to sit down and have frank discussions with kids about what is appropriate use, what is inappropriate use, and what are some of the consequences. of that inappropriate use, and build that rapport and that trust with students. Allow for growing autonomy. We know cell phones and social media and devices are pervasive in their everyday life. What types of things can we do in our schools to build that self-awareness and that autonomy so that kids understand that this is an appropriate use, this is an inappropriate use, when are we allowed to have them, and when we do have them, are we making the right choices with them, along with all of your traditional methods of warning students about the problems associated with the physical things like bullying. How do we warn them about the issues related to cyberbullying? How do we talk about not students not being mean to one another, but then also expand that to the digital world as well. And again, probably the reason why I started this off by looking inward is that we need to model that appropriate behavior. Look at your staff meetings. How many people have their phones out? Look at the hallways between classes. Are we modeling the appropriate behavior for our students? The other thing is to convert bystanders to upstanders. One of the things that we always promote to our children is to, if you see something, say something. And if you are aware of any type of cyberbullying or catfishing or any of those types of negative social media or negative digital actions by their peers, is they need to report it to somebody and really stand up for those people. Just like we would tell people, we need to be, you need to call out bullies. Well, you need to call out digital bullies as well. The last thing we need to do is to teach students how to document. And when we talk about documenting, it is as simple as taking a screenshot of something that happened or that was sent to you and writing down the time and day it happened, and if you can identify the sender. This is what we tell people who are maybe victims of abuse to do. Document the behavior and the time so you can show a pattern when it comes time to address it or prosecute the offender. A lot of people will say, oh, no, that's just small, that's minor, it's not. But in hindsight, it was important to document even the earliest actions. So we really need to talk to children about documentation, and when something happens, how do they make sure that there's evidence and that they can create a pattern. But then also, if you're a bystander, you really need to call it out, and we need to build those relationships with ourselves as teachers with children, but also between the students in our classes, so they don't A, partake in that behavior in the first place, but B, recognize when it's happening and put a stop to it. They'll listen to their peers more than they will listen to adults at times. Lastly, some resources that are related to this. I'm going to back out of the presentation for a second. StopBullying.gov is the government site for cyberbullying. So if you're looking for lessons or more resources, or even just some definitions, like what was catfishing, or what is sexting, or what are some of the laws in my state regarding that, Stop Bullying is a good source for that. The ISTE, which is the International Society for Technology and Education, they have a whole area of focus on digital citizenship and education, which includes lesson plans or courses to learn more about it, and even some that are self-paced courses that include graduate credit. So if you want to become more aware of that, and even some texts and other resources here. So these are things that you can look at after, and the links are in the slide deck, which I will share at the end, that are from ISTE. Looking more locally, you have the REMC Association of Michigan. They actually have two resources that are useful in this area. The first one is My Tech Kids, and this is more on the elementary side, but it is a series of teaching and learning resources for K-5 aligned to the My Tech standards, which are the Michigan technology standards. And part of that involves, you can see here for all of them, these are all the strands of these skills for technology in K-12, but in particular K-5 here, and all of them have a piece for each grade level on digital citizenship and internet safety. Now, not all of them are going to be related to the topics we're talking about today, but you can see some of the headings for kindergartens. Follow the digital footprint. Shh, don't tell, never share personal information. My online neighborhood. So even as early as kindergarten, we can start influencing behavior and making students aware of this. But, again, I can just pull up another grade really quickly. And they have digital and citizen internet safety. So it's obviously a bit more complex as you get older. With these lessons. So being a confident internet explorer, using citations. So you can start to see a bit more about other aspects of digital citizenship, like citations, giving proper attribution, stop plagiarism. But there's plenty of stuff here about safe searching and working together to stop bullying. So again, this is one area for particularly elementary that could be helpful for you if you're looking for resources. And the last one here is also from the REMC Association of Michigan. It is the 21 Things for Students. 21 Things for Students is a series of lessons and challenges for students to embark on to become more digitally astute. A couple of these may apply to this. So, for example, My Digital Life, this particular strand deals with how you navigate through using computers, but there's also one right here about digital footprint, and it talks about the same things here. Understand how digital media can have positive and negative effects. Now, when there's about cyber safety, things that you need to be doing to remain safe on the internet. So there's plenty out here on the internet from very trustworthy resources, the government, ISTE, and the REMC Association of Michigan, to help you kind of get your footing in how to teach this and use this in your own classroom. So you can always link it to other skills. You can link it to specific content that you're teaching, or incorporate it into any type of specials class that you might have at the level you're teaching. But again, this is more about making sure that not only we are doing the right things as teachers and modeling that behavior, but what are some of the things that students are doing that are both positive and negative with respect to digital citizenship? And finally, how do we access resources that can help us design lessons that incorporate these ideas into them, so we're not just doing it in a silo and saying, hey, this week is digital citizenship week and we're only going to talk about this one week this year. These resources can be used throughout the year and incorporated into your own content. As we wrap up, again, we conclude the month of August with these Blitz sessions that have been occurring all month. We want to just remind everybody that the whole child is our focus. And again, a lot of this can assist in in teaching and learning of skills and content that we cover as teachers, but it can also help improve the social-emotional health of our children. So as we wrap up, I want to put a link to the slide deck in the